Welcome to the February Room, where we talk shop, tie flies, and share the fishing stories you never heard. I'm Lauren Karnopp, your host, and this is the February Room. Presented by CD Fishing USA. Innovative construction equals exceptional performance. Visit cd-fishing.us and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And remember to go fishing. Welcome to the February Room. Today I am visiting with owner and also my husband of CD Fishing USA, Justin Karnopp.
Yeah, hey, it's kind of nice to have some time to ourselves here with the coronavirus pandemic going on. So, we're going to tie some flies and tell some fishing stories today.
Well, thank you for joining us, Justin. Can you tell us what we've got going on today and what you will be tying?
Well, I'm going to tie a big pike fly. It's going to have two hooks. I'm using a Paccarini Dragon Tail, bait fish emulator flash, ice dubbing, and some rubber legs.
Can you kind of go through the steps of what you're doing right now?
Yep, first thing I'm doing is I'm going to secure the trailer hook using 20-pound braiding wire, which I get at a hobby store. So I'm putting my second hook on here, and I'm going to put it about 3 inches behind my front hook.
Well, so far it's looking pretty good. Can you tell us, Justin, some of your crazy fishing stories? Because I know you have a lot.
Well, one that sticks out is when I was guiding, right after I first moved to Missoula, and I was guiding for my friends John and Terry Herzer, who own Blackfoot River Outfitters. I was up on the Blackfoot one June, I believe it was in June, I think. And we were up in the canyon stretch and had this really nice couple. They were from Pennsylvania, and they were up staying at one of the local dude ranches with their family, and they had a day where they went fishing, and then their kids were going to go do some other activities like horseback riding and stuff. So the fishing was good. The people were really nice. We were having good conversation. It was just a perfect day, and it was a nice kind of late spring, early summer day on the Blackfoot. We had a little bit of cloud cover, which was good for the fishing. They were catching some fish, and everything was good. And I guess about 2 or so in the afternoon, I looked downstream and saw some storm clouds rolling in, and so kind of, kept an eye on that as we continued fishing and started to hear some thunder boomers. So started to get a little nervous. Then the lightning strikes started to happen. And there was a couple other boats up on the river that day. It wasn't very busy, but we did pass, another guide boat that was hunkered in on the bank, riding the storm out. And I was thinking, well, maybe we should probably do the same thing here, wait and see what happens. And about that time, the husband who was fishing in the back of the boat, hooked a fish and was bringing a fish in. So I leaned around to go help him land the fish with my net, and landed the fish. And then I turned around just in time to watch the wife take her sunglasses off. And, we always insist that people wear eye protection on the river. And she threw this high-risk cast. Her line was piled up towards the boat, and she'd been doing it throughout the day, and I'd been trying to kind of break her of it. But she did it, and it was just one of those no moments where I just couldn't stop her in time, and it whipped the line right back into her face. And, she stopped immediately and held her face. And I just kind of froze, and her husband was fishing out of the back of the boat. He was kind of clueless as to what was going on at that moment. And she said, "Oh my God, I hooked myself in the eye." it was just just kind of heart-stopping moment. And you take first aid classes and CPR training for all these years as a guide and stuff, and you're still just not really prepared when something like that happens. We're way up on the Blackfoot. We're miles from the boat ramp. There's no road access. And here I've got this lady with a fly stuck in her eye. So, I immediately dropped the anchor. The husband turned around. So I take a look at it, and sure enough, it was hooked in her eyeball. I thought, I was hoping and praying like maybe it's in her eyelid, maybe it's in the next to her eye, but no, it was the hook was in her eyeball. I couldn't believe it. And initially I said, hey, it's all going to be, hey, okay, no, not a big deal. It's going to be fine. It looks to me like it's barely in your eye, which I'm just kind of trying to diffuse the situation somewhat, even though I'm trying not to freak out. So we don't have any cell service up where we are. The lightning and the thunder starts getting worse, and the rain starts hammering down. And, the sensible thing to do would be to pull over and ride out the storm, because obviously fishing through a lightning storm is extremely dangerous. You got 9-foot rods in your hand. It's a lightning rod that you're holding. But we had no choice. So we had to just push through this storm and get down to the boat ramp so I could drive up and make a phone call. And, so we're heading down the river, and, we just try to make some small talk, and the woman she was amazingly brave, and I couldn't believe how calm she was. Like, the husband was freaking out worse than she was, and she was encouraging him to calm down, and then he calmed down a little, and so it was actually kind of a nice hour and a half out. We just kind of started talking about their family, and she was just really mellow and relaxed, and we just kind of made the best of it. And meanwhile, we're going through a lightning storm, and there's thunder booming all around us, and lightning's striking within pretty close proximity, and the rain's pounding us, and we've got a woman with a hook stuck through her eyeball. And we made it to the boat ramp, and I just left my boat. And we all jumped in the truck, and we drove up, and we got cell service, and we called the Dude Ranch where they were staying, and got the manager on the horn, and he agreed to drive out to the highway and meet us and run them into town. So we met him on Highway 200, and he took them both and drove them into town, and I turned around and ran back, grabbed my boat. And so I get to the hospital, and they're still waiting for the primary doctor, and they're in the ER, and the initial ER doc comes back because he had already talked to him while I was gone, and he comes back and he delivers the news, and says the fly is stuck in your eyeball. It's something that we're going to have an ophthalmologist take care of for you. So we're going to get the ophthalmologist here, and he's going to have to perform some surgery and take that hook out of your eyeball. So at that moment, she started to kind of break down. And, because then it's hitting her, the gravity of the situation's hitting her, that she might lose her eye. And just a pretty scary moment for anybody, of course. And then what happened was her daughter comes through the door, and she's got a cast on her arm. And she had gotten bucked off a horse that day at the Dude Ranch and broke her arm. And we didn't know about that until just now. So on top of the fly in the eye, their daughter's got a broken arm, and the daughter and the mom, are hugging each other and crying, and I'm just sitting there going, wow, this is just the worst Montana vacation ever for these poor people. And there was nothing else I could do. So I left, and I called him back the next day, and the surgery had gone well. And they had saved her eye. And the doc had told them that if it'd been a barbed hook, she probably would have lost her eye. So it was a barbless hook. It was a big hook. She was fishing like a number, size 6 stonefly or something. But it was barbless, and so they were able to back it out of there, and she was no worse for the wear. And a month later, I got a really nice handwritten letter from her, along with a nice little cash tip. And she had kind of she kind of made me out to be some sort of mountain man hero in the letter, but I didn't do anything. I mean, she was incredibly brave through a really scary and sketchy experience on the Blackfoot River. So so the fly in the eye. And I guess the moral of that story is debarb your hooks and wear your sunglasses, because you just never know.
It is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I still think you're a good mountain man hero for me.
Oh, well thank you. Thanks.
What are you doing with your fly right now?
So I've got the dragon tail tied in here, and this thing looks weird when you're not fishing it. Like, it looks like it just kind of hangs off to the side here. But when you fish it, it actually does this. It
kind of turns and coils around.
Coils up into a spiral, and that's what moves around in the water. But I think I need a little stiffer wire for this particular hook.
So with this fly, is it just for pike, or can it be used for other fish, or is it mainly just a pike fly?
Well, I got them from an outfit called Nightmare Muskie Flies. So I think they use them for muskies. And I gotta believe that it would work well on tarpon, brown trout, a variety of predatory fish, which I guess most fish are predators. But any big fish that likes to eat a big meal, I think is gonna like this fly.
Yeah, it's really, really pretty. Do you remember when I caught my first fish?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we were in Sun Valley, right?
Yeah, we were in Sun Valley, and it was my first time learning. Justin was going to teach me how to fly fish. Remember, I had to borrow your dad's wading stuff? But then it
was a little big.
Yeah, it was a little big, and it was March, and we went in the water, and I remember I took one step in and my boot filled up, and you moved so fast. You told me to keep moving fast across the river.
You're
I took a second step.
Suck it up, Buttercup, right?
That's what you told me. And then I took another step, and the boot filled up. And then the third one, I couldn't lift, and I just fell in the water.
Right.
And you told me, do you remember you told me? I guess we're done fishing now.
Yeah, you blew it. It was a really, I remember that day. It was like kind of warm and overcast, and it was in March, and there were blueing olives out and fish rising. And it had all the makings of a killer day on the Big Wood River, and you totally blew it and fallen in with those size 12 boots that you couldn't handle.
But no, I looked at you and I said, no, we're not done. And I went on the bank and I caught my fish, the good old whitey.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah,
and then
you caught the whitefish.
And I showed it to you.
And you said, hey, I got a white.
And then I went back.
I got a white.
I think I was like, I got a white.
No, you said white.
Oh.
I remember.
Okay, I got a white. And then I walked back into the car and warmed up until you got done with your fishing trip. But I showed you.
Didn't we go out the next day and you lost like my favorite fly box or something too? Was that the next day? Wasn't that the same trip?
Yeah, it was. And that day I was wearing a size 6 boot and I wear a size 8.5.
Oh, so we had you in boots that were too small that second time?
Uh-huh.
Gotcha. That doesn't explain why you lost my fly box.
But remember we found it?
Didn't I go back and find it?
Well, I don't think so. I think we were just going back to the car. But I do have to say, you were very good about not losing your cool with me.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bigger issue was falling in the river during the blue wing olive hatch and putting a damper on that. But, that That was my mayfly box too, like all my green drakes and all the stuff that I hate to tie that takes a long time. But we did find it, so.
We did. We found it.
The other thing that happened to me, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I got it on the Deschutes for quite a while, for several years, and in my 20s. And the Deschutes is a pretty dangerous river, a big river, lots of white water. You can't fish from the boat. You have to wade, and it's slippery and fast and dangerous. It's all sharp volcanic rock, and so it's a hell of a place to take people that don't really know what they're doing specifically, because it's a pretty rugged environment. We were doing a multi-day trip, which we did a lot of on that river, and I was guiding for a guy named Roger Carbone, who is an old school outfitter and been there for a long time, and good dude, knows what he's doing. Great big guy. I think he was a former football player or something. But just a no-nonsense guy, too. He ran a real tight program. We're fishing from, 8 to 5, and then we're getting to camp, and we're having dinner, and, that's that. And if the clients want to go back out and fish on their own, they can. At any rate, I had we had this group, and I think there was 3 or 4 boats. So Roger, myself, a young guy in Oregon named Taylor Garretts, and who, has his own outfitting business and everything now, is 40-something years old, but this was a while ago. We were fishing, it was on the second day of the trip, and I have these kids, I have the young guys with me, and the one kid was real athletic and, a good angler, and didn't have to worry about him too much. His buddy was kind of the opposite, so he was pretty clumsy, he was haphazard, he couldn't fish very well, and he was getting kind of frustrated because his buddy was catching a lot of fish, so he was, taking some risks and stuff and doing some things wading-wise that he probably shouldn't have, and I was kind of trying to reel him in a little bit. We'd pulled over in this one particularly kind of dangerous section to fish above Whitehorse Rapids. I told the kind of clumsy kid, I'm like, look, buddy, you just got to stand right here by the boat for me for a second and fish this one riffle and don't go anywhere. And, I'm going to send your buddy up to these rocks here, and there's a bunch of pocket water up there, real fast stuff, but there's some big fish that hang out in that, and they don't get fished a lot, so I took the other kid back up and set him up, and he was only 50 feet away or whatever from the boat, not very far, and went back down and was helping the other kid fish, and the athletic kid hooks a fish, and it's a nice big Deschutes red side, one of the big fat ones in fast current, hard to handle, and so he's fighting that, and I grab the net, go up to go give him a hand. And, of course, the other kid just couldn't stand it that his buddy had hooked another fish. So he decided to make a move and head upriver, and he just stepped right off into this real deep channel. I looked down, and, he was gone. I started running downriver. He had also, unbeknownst to me, taken off his wading belt. So he's got those, he's got breathable waders on with no wading belt. So those are an anchor. And we're kind of like right at the head, actually we're in the middle of Whitehorse. So we're in the middle of a class 4 rapid, and we're kind of like in this section. There's a little bit of a tail out, and then there's the first part of the rapid, which is kind of the main part. There's a little bit of a break where we were fishing, little tail out, and then the rapid starts again for another half mile or so. And the kid comes up, and he's splashing around dog paddling, and he's heading towards the tail out, and he's going to go down in the second set of the rapids here real soon, and he's a goner. If he goes in there, there's no way he's getting out. So I jump in, I tell the other kid to just hang tight, and I jump in the river, and I swim down, and I catch the kid. So now I've got him in one arm, and I'm going in the tail out, and I'm trying to swim with one arm, and it's not going very well. And right at that moment, I've got to make the decision whether I'm going to drop this kid and let him drown, or I'm going to go down with him. And right at that moment, this boat came around and saw what was going on, and I'll never forget this. The guide's name was Court Christensen. He was a guide on that river for a long time, and he he saw what was going down, and he rowed down and caught us in an instant. And I grabbed onto Court's boat, and he pulled us across to the Indian side and saved our lives, essentially. And then Taylor came down, that other guide, and I jumped in with him, and we went and got my boat and made it down to camp. And Roger got word of what happened, and he was pissed. And that night he gave me a bit of a tongue lashing, about we don't need to be fishing in such dangerous spots with this outfit, or it's just not necessary. There's plenty of places to catch fish. And had a kind of a group powwow with everybody in the group about safety and so it was a scary moment. That was kind of the worst of a number of kind of close calls I had guiding on that river with people nearly drowning, and I kind of took a break for a while after that. And
How did the kid feel afterwards?
oh, he was terrified. I mean, he was terrified. He thought he was going to die. And he was grateful, though, and his dad was really grateful, thanks for jumping in the river. And well, yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do? I'm not going to sit there and let his son drown.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it was just super lucky. I mean, just the fact that Court happened to show up at that moment, it was just really, really fortuitous.
That is like every parent's nightmare.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt.
But I guess small mistakes like that, not wearing your wading belt, not wearing your sunglasses, can just be things that you don't think are important, really actually obviously are.
Right. Moral of the story is listen to your guide.
It is so true.
Yep, it is. They get in trouble.
Listen to your guide. You'll catch some fish, and you'll
Yep,
stay
and you'll
alive,
stay alive.
and you
That's
won't
right.
lose any body parts.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so I see what we have added so far. So we have the dragon tail.
Yep.
And did you add some flashaboo to that?
Oh, that's this. This stuff's called baitfish emulator flash.
But it looks like it has a little bit of flashaboo in there.
It looks like flashaboo on a string, basically. So essentially, you're just kind of wrapping flashaboo around. Yeah. So.
Right. It looks like you've just added that like below the eyes.
I just wrapped the back of the hook shank with it.
I see.
Just to build up some profile.
You know what that fly reminds me of?
Huh.
Remember the Muppets? Is it the Muppets where the drummer is like all crazy and he like shakes his
Animal?
head? Animal.
Yeah.
It reminds me a bit of Animal.
That's a good name for the fly. Maybe we'll call it Animal.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
I love the turquoise legs.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like you decided to add what are you adding here?
A little marabou.
Marabou. I was going to say Malibu.
Can't go wrong with marabou on anything.
Why did you?
A lot of movement and.
I mean, it really does look like monster.
Animal.
Animal.
Yeah.
It's like animal meets a lion.
Oh yeah, with a big
mane, the yellow mane.
Yeah.
It looks great. And for a lot of our listeners, they might wonder why we've named this the February room. Justin, in our basement, his fly tying room is called the February room. And the reason why is because in February, that's where we tend to have the gloomiest days here in Missoula, and where you tend to do the most of your time is spent down there tying flies.
Yep. February is... You go hide out by yourself and hunker down and fill your fly box and load shells and it's kind of another term for a man cave, I guess.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we'll just finish it off with some ice dub for the head. And I can't wait. I took one of these out the other day and just kind of swam it to see what it looked like. I was just kind of swinging it on the bitter root. I had something grab it hard, but... boy, they sure look good in the water, and you don't have to move them. What's great about this tail is you can move it really slowly, and it still wiggles, and it does all that kind of snake-like effect. And oftentimes with pike, you got to, and barracuda too, you got to kind of tease them that way to get them to strike, because they're smart fish, and they've been fooled before, and sometimes you got to kind of play to their instincts and get that predatory instinct to take over. So sometimes you got to kind of tease them. It's like a cat, like getting a cat to play with you when it's not in the mood.
Well, looks like you're done with the fly, and we're pretty much done with the show. Thanks for joining us in the February Room. If you would like to share some of your fly fishing stories, message us on Instagram or Facebook at CD Fishing USA.